Hey guys, it's Reese, and today I have a little bit of a different type of video for this channel, but it is one that is many years in the making and one that I have been wanting to make forever. And this is going to be my video explaining to you guys my process of applying to film school this year. I'm going to be including my personal experience as well as tips that I have for people who are interested in applying to film school in the future. If you're one of my normal viewers and you're interested in watching this, you can go ahead, but I'm more making it for people who are interested in going to film school who want to find a video like this to help them with their application process, because I had been researching going to film school for several years and I could never quite find a video that really explained the process for me and could help me out. So I thought I would make that if you're watching this and this is something that you are interested in pursuing. I'm going to be splitting this video up into different sections, like based on what I'm talking about. So if you only want to skip ahead to a certain section, you can just like go to the timestamp. I won't be offended. But yeah, I have a lot to talk about, so I'm just gonna get right into it. So first up, I'm just gonna get into the very basics of film school for you. If it's just something that you're just now thinking that you might be interested in, you want to kind of know what it's all about. So the first major thing that you need to know about film school is that there's kind of two different types of film majors. So there is there's like schools that offer a film studies major, and there are film schools. So your first option, which is a school that offers a film major, will typically offer a major that's called like cinema studies or something like that, where it's just part of like the art school, or maybe not even the art school, it's just a general program where you're really going to be studying like the theoretical side of film, and you're going to be like watching movies and kind of learning about it but not really doing anything like hands-on. So this is an option. This is a really popular minor for some people, cinema studies, if you're just interested in movies and you kind of want to know more about like the analytical side of them, but it's not an actual film school, it's just a film major. Film school, on the other hand, is offered not nearly as frequently as you're going to see a cinema studies major. Actually, very few schools in the US actually have a film school, but this is where it is a dedicated school at the university where all it does is house film majors and all different types of aspects. They're going to have a lot of resources for you. All of the professors are going to be specializing in film, and it's going to be like a community of filmmakers. So film schools typically have several different majors that you can apply for, ranging from like screenwriting to producing to the ultimately coveted film production major. At any film school you're going to be applying to, film production is 100% going to be the most competitive major. Film production is a major where you are going to learn, all you are doing is learning how to make movies. You're going to learn how to do everything from screenwriting to cinematography to editing to directing to literally everything. It's a very hands-on major where you're going to be getting a ton of experience and you're going to be doing a lot of creative work, and many people want to do this, so you're gonna get acceptance rates that are frequently lower than Ivy League schools. Not to scare you or anything, like I'm gonna be going into my experience with it. I did apply as a film production major to the schools that I applied to, but it's very difficult. It's not really something that you can kind of just one day be like, I think I'm gonna be a film production major, I guess I'll try it out, and then you can't just like apply and think you can just get in very easily, because it's a very difficult major to get into. Another thing I'll add about the basics of film school that you need to know is that pretty much every film school, not talking about just like the cinema studies major, but film schools will typically require you to submit a creative portfolio when you are applying. That is in addition to your Common App or whatever base application everybody is doing, no matter what major they're applying to. Depending on what your major is, I can only speak for film production, but I know it varies between major. They're gonna ask you to submit a lot of different creative elements, including a short film or a script or a short story or an essay about like your creative experience. It's just they're trying to see who you are as a creative individual. A very nice thing about film school is that you you do need to be a good student, especially for film production, because you need to be very well-rounded, but you can make up for not being the best student by having a really good creative supplement where you can show them that you are going to be a really good filmmaker. It is a lot of work, especially if you're applying to multiple schools. I spent a very long time on my creative portfolios, and I started the summer before working on them, the second that they released the guidelines for that year, but it's really worth it if that's what you want to do. You just have to put all of your effort into it. Okay, so now that I have kind of like the basics out of the way for you, I am going to be going into my personal experience with my applications and my process, just to give you a real firsthand account of what it is like to apply to film school, specifically as a film production major. So I've known that I've wanted to major in film production since I was in 8th grade, so I've had quite a lot of time to be like kind of building my portfolio and just knowing and having a goal in mind and always working towards the goal of going to film school. So I know people typically like to know stats, so I'll just give you like a really brief overview of my stats. So I had a 3.95 unweighted GPA and a 4.5 weighted GPA. I took 5 AP classes and I got a 5 and a 4 on my 2 exam scores that I do have. Due to the pandemic, I only took the SAT once and I got a 1270, which is not great. I just submitted it to 2 schools. Most schools weren't even taking it this year, but I just submitted it just to add something to my application. That's not a great score. It's not horrible, but I got a 1270 and then I never retook it. And as for extracurriculars, I was a part of the National Charity League for 6 years, where I did a lot of philanthropic activities, a lot of volunteering. I won several chapter-wide awards. I got a congressional award for volunteering, but most of my extracurriculars were film-related. So I was on the morning announcements at my school. I was on a broadcast news competition team. I was in a media-related club. So it was just, oh, and then this channel, of course. I talked a lot about my YouTube channel as my job, of course, since I'm like editing all the time, which is an aspect of filmmaking. I talked about that a lot on my application and my creative supplements. So now I am going to go into the 3 most important things for me when I was deciding what schools that I wanted to apply to, because there are a lot of schools to choose from just in the United States alone. So I thought I would tell you what my criteria was that helped me narrow it down. So my first requirement was that it had to be an out-of-state school. This was just my personal preference. By no means does this have to apply to you, but I live in Arizona currently and I just had no interest in going to school in Arizona. I really didn't like any of the schools that we have here, and no schools had an actual film major or a film school, so that just really was not what I was looking for. And I really wanted to get out and experience a new place. So just right away, I really did not consider anywhere that was in Arizona. That was just a personal preference for me. My cat is coming up to say hi, but that could be totally different for you depending on where you're living or depending on what you're wanting to pursue. My second criteria was that it had to be an actual film school. There were a lot of schools that I was interested in that only had a cinema studies major, and I just knew that really wasn't what I was passionate about, and it wasn't going to get me where I wanted to go in my career, which I really specifically knew what I wanted to do. So I decided not to apply to those schools, even though they were really good, just because it wasn't going to be right for my major. And my third requirement when I was picking schools was that I really wanted it to be a well-known and renowned film school. This is by no means does this have to be part of your application process. It was just something that was important to me because I know very specifically what I want to do, and I knew that I wanted to go to school out of state anyways. So I used like a top 25 film schools list. I can link some of them below for you. There's a couple of them that are very well researched and give you a very good and accurate answer. But this was just important to me because I know since the film industry itself is so competitive that it's a really good head start to go to a school that has connections and that is well known in the industry, so that you can get internships and hopefully go right into a job after you graduate. So that was just something that was personally important to me. That does not mean that you can't go to a lesser known film school and still get an amazing job. It was just something that I wanted to do personally. Also, if you take a look at that list, it does have a lot of options in a lot of different places. Once I was going through that list of like the top 25 schools, that was basically what I was going off of, and there were a lot of schools that I eliminated, even though they were amazing film schools, just for personal preferences. Like Emerson, which is in Boston, has an amazing film school, but I really just didn't see myself living in Boston, so I didn't apply there. And Loyola Marymount, which is in LA, also has a really good film school, but I actually went and I toured that campus, and I just really didn't love the vibe on the campus. It just really wasn't for me. and I didn't think that that would be a good experience for me, so I didn't end up applying there. So it is, it's a really good resource if you are able to tour campuses, just so you can really get the feel of what it's like there. Alright, so now I am going to talk about the schools that I did apply to, kind of my thoughts on them, my experience applying to them, and then what my decision was at the school. Okay, so before I get into exactly where I applied, I just wanted to note that for film production at the top film schools in the country, they all have an acceptance rate below 10%, with USC having a film production acceptance rate as low as 2%, which can definitely seem very daunting. I was super nervous going into the process, so I did apply to some safety schools just because I knew how competitive it was going into it. I knew all of the top schools had a less than 10% acceptance rate, and I was going to be very realistic about the possibility that I could get into none of them. So I did apply to some safety schools, but just know there's a very low acceptance rate, so don't bank on getting into your dream school. I would honestly advise not even having a dream school if you're going into film, because it's so hard and it's so subjective, and there are so many worthy and talented people who apply that don't get in just because they don't have enough space, or they want to keep their acceptance rate low, or I don't know. But anyways, okay, so the first school that I applied to is very funny because I'm going to say this school and you are going to be like, Reese, this goes against every single requirement that you just said that you had for where you wanted to go to school. And that school is Arizona State University. So Arizona State University is not out of state, it does not have a film school, and it's not well known for film, so it was everything I didn't want, but it has a really high acceptance rate, and I was so nervous about getting into the other schools that I really wanted to go to, and my mom told me that it would be a good idea if I did apply there. They do have a film major, and I think they are working on actually opening up a real film school, which will be good for the future. That will definitely be something that I think will become an option in the future. But right now for me, I had absolutely no interest in going there. It just was not going to be a good fit for me. And so I really never considered it, but I did apply there. They didn't require any sort of like creative supplement or anything. So it was just the basic common application, and I did get accepted there. So I did get into ASU. The next school that I applied to was Ryerson University, which is actually in Toronto, Ontario. That is where I was born. That's where I'm originally from. I went and I toured the campus, and I did like it there. It's like right downtown in Toronto. They do have, it's not really, I don't know if it's necessarily like a film school, but they are very technical based, and they have a very good film major, and they do have a higher acceptance rate than a lot of the US schools. And since I am a Canadian citizen, I would have gotten in-province tuition, which is like in-state tuition, so it would have been way cheaper than if I were to go to school in the United States. So I thought it was a good option because I knew if I ended up going to ASU, I would have just been really depressed, and I would have been settling way too much for how much work I had put into it. I thought if I went to Ryerson, it wouldn't be exactly what I wanted, but it wouldn't have been settling. It would have been a new city, even though I'm originally from there, but like a new experience for me, and just I think I would have enjoyed it if I did end up going there. So I applied there several months ago, and it is currently May, and I still have not heard back. I was assuming that I was going to get in. I mean, maybe I didn't. I really don't know, but I still haven't heard back. I don't know if this is because I applied from an American high school and it was going to take longer for them to go through my application, and they were only going to do Canadian or Ontario high school kids first, but I have not heard back, so I will update in the description once I hear back from them. But as of right now, I don't know if I got in. I was thinking I would, but now I really don't know anymore. But yeah, that was a school that I applied to. Don't know if I got in, but I didn't want to wait any longer to film this video, so yeah. Alright, so now I'm going to get into like the big four, the top 4 film schools in the United States. I applied to all of these, so here is what happened. So the first one I'm going to talk about is UCLA. UCLA is UC Los Angeles. It's a public school in Los Angeles. I went and I toured UCLA, and I absolutely loved it. It was my favorite of all of the schools that like I actually got to take a real tour with a tour guide. It was a really good location, and I love the vibes, and I love the school colors and their mascot, and I think that I really like the campus. So their film production major only accepts 30 students a year, I think it is, which is absolutely insane. And even though I really would have liked to go there, that probably would have been my favorite overall school that I would have wanted to go to, I knew I just had to be very realistic and know that there was almost no chance I was going to get into there. Their creative supplement was also very weird. They did not require a short film. It was just one essay. So I feel like they really don't get a chance to see who you are as a filmmaker or as a creative individual. But needless to say, I did not get into UCLA. I'm gonna insert my reaction of me opening my letter because it's actually kind of funny, like kind of sad, but it's kind of funny because I already knew I wasn't gonna get in, but I still decided to record my reaction anyway. So here you go.
Hey besties, so UCLA decision just came out. I already know that I didn't get in because my major has a 1% acceptance rate, and I got absolutely no indicators that I got in, and I like literally did stuff wrong on my portfolio section. So this is just a fun little reaction of me seeing my rejection letter because I don't know, I already know I'm not getting in, so I thought it would be fun to just record so I don't have to be nervous about it because I already know I'm not getting in. Didn't get in. It happens. It happens.
So yeah, didn't get into UCLA, was not surprised, was a little bit disappointed, but obviously it's just incredibly competitive. I don't know anybody who got into that major. Okay, the next of the big four schools that I'm going to be talking about is NYU, which is New York University. NYU was my dream school. I did have a dream school at one point when I was in 8th grade, and it was NYU because I had just been to New York and I wanted to live there, and I knew that NYU had an amazing film school, which is at NYU Tisch, which is their School of the Arts, and I was like, that is where I'm going. I am going to NYU. As I got older and further into high school and I had to look more into the process, it kind of became less of my dream school just because it's so expensive and they don't do many scholarships and it's so far away. And I did go and tour NYU like when I was, I think when I was in grade 10, and they don't actually have a real campus. It's just buildings that are within New York City, with Washington Square Park being like their unofficial hub. And I didn't love the non-traditional college experience. I didn't know if that, I think that would have been really hard for me to make friends in. So I still applied there. I still was definitely interested in going because I think it would have been a really cool experience to go and live in New York. They had a really extensive creative portfolio that I had to submit, and I worked really hard on it, and I actually ended up getting waitlisted, which I was shocked. I thought I was gonna get rejected, so I was really happy to be waitlisted. Their acceptance rate is about 3%, so I really was not expecting to get in, but I got waitlisted. So if you don't know what waitlisted is, it means that you were qualified to go to the school. They went through your whole application and all your credentials, and they thought you were qualified, they just didn't have enough spots. So what would happen is if you decide to go on the wait list, then as decision day rolls around and people reject their spot, then they pull people off the wait list and they give you a spot at the school. All right, the next school from the big four that I'm going to be talking about is Chapman University. So Chapman University is in Orange, California, which is like a 30-45 minute drive outside of Los Angeles. 10 minutes from Disneyland, kind of in that area. Chapman is a smaller private school. Dodge has a lot of different film majors that you can do, like creative producing is something that they offer, screenwriting, visual, like animation, and then film production. So film production has a 7% acceptance rate at Dodge. They require a creative supplement. I had to make a specific short film because they asked for a specific prompt that you had to follow, so you couldn't just submit anything that you had worked on before. I also wrote an essay about how I met Sebastian Stan at Ace Comic Con, and that was one of my essays that I wrote. So just sit with that. Chapman is a really gorgeous campus. It's covered in palm trees. Did I mention that it is right next to Disneyland? It's also a good distance from LA, so if you don't always want to be living in the LA lifestyle, you can be living in Orange County, which is very cute, and then you can go to LA whenever you want to do anything. So it is very funny because Chapman was the first major film school that I heard back from, and I was planning on recording all of my reactions, and I didn't end up recording because I was so nervous and so convinced that I didn't get in that I just thought it would be embarrassing to film myself and then have to watch me cry when I didn't get in, and then realize that I wasn't going to get in anywhere, and my whole dream and everything that I had working towards was not going to happen. So I didn't film it. So I actually did end up getting into Chapman. I got accepted into the film production major with a merit scholarship, which was beyond anything that I had hoped for. So that happened, and yeah, I was accepted into Chapman. And the last school of the big four that I applied to was obviously USC, the University of Southern California. USC is pretty much known to have the best film school in the world. It's funded by Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. So yeah, I went and I toured USC. I didn't love the area that it was in, but the campus was really pretty, and the film school was like modeled after Paramount Studios, and it was just incredible. I really, really wanted to go there. That was probably, it had become kind of my new dream school just because of the caliber of the film school. And also I really liked that it was like a private, like 20,000 kind of student setup, like not too big, not too small. I was really vibing with it, and I don't know, I just felt like that would have been a good place for me. But of course, since it's the best film school in the world, it has a 2% acceptance rate for film production. So I did my whole creative supplement. I submitted short film, bunch of essays, letters of rec. That's something that I forgot to mention. You do need letters of recommendation. I would advise you to get them from creative people who have taught you stuff in creative aspects, so they can get to know that side of you. So even though I knew the acceptance rate was so low and I was not expecting to get in, I got rejected, as you could probably guess, and I was absolutely devastated when I got rejected. That was really like where I saw myself going, and it was just really upsetting to get rejected. And they don't do any sort of wait list, so you just get straight up rejected and you can appeal. But I decided that since I didn't get in, it just wasn't meant to be, and there were certain aspects about it as I started to think about it that weren't super appealing to me, and I decided that just I wasn't going to appeal, because even though it's such an incredible school and it would have been such an amazing experience, I wasn't going to dwell on it. So now it's been like a month and I'm kind of over it. So, well, kind of, not totally, but mostly over it. So yeah, I got rejected from USC, but that's kind of just how it goes. Oh well. Alright, so those are all of the schools that I applied to, and you can probably guess where I ended up selecting as my school. I am going to be attending Chapman University this fall as a film production major, and I could not be more excited. I decided to pick Chapman instead of waiting out on NYU just because I really didn't see myself going to NYU, and although it is such an incredible program, I just didn't really feel like I would fit in, and I felt like Chapman was definitely going to be a better option for me. I live in Arizona, so it's only about a 6-hour drive, so it's far enough away that it's a totally different state and a new experience and new people, but I can still do weekend visits with my parents either way, so it was a good compromise. And I am so excited to live 10 minutes from Disneyland and to become an annual pass holder and maybe even a cast member working part-time. And I mean, the fact that I got into the #4 film school in the country and that's where I'm going is so surreal to me, and I can't wait to make movies forever. I have already had access to some amazing master classes with Chapman, like with Judd Apatow and Bryan Cranston and Damien Chazelle, the director of La La Land, which is my favorite movie of all time, and also the Duffer Brothers, who directed Stranger Things, went to Chapman as film production majors, so fingers crossed I get to see a sneak peek of the first episode of season 4 whenever it comes out. I really hope they come and premiere it, but like wishful thinking, I guess. And I can't believe all the opportunities that I'm going to have while going to Dodge and going to Chapman. And I'm not to sound like a narcissist, like just to say this in the most, I don't even, just like to help you out, help put it in perspective for you. I worked so hard throughout high school with the sole goal of going to one of the top film schools in the country, and that was always my ambition. And I was really lucky to have parents who supported my goal to be a filmmaker, even though it's kind of unconventional. And I'm just so happy it all worked out and all of my hard work paid off. So I will be moving to California to attend Chapman this fall, and I really can't wait. So that was my experience applying to film school. I really hope you enjoyed and that this was helpful for you. My advice would really just be, if you are passionate about filmmaking, then go for it. Put all of your work into your creative supplements. Those are so important. Work on those short films, work on those essays, show them who you are as a creative individual, and make sure you find schools that are the right fit for you. There's so many amazing options for film school, and I'm sure you can find one that will not only accept you, but be the perfect fit for you. And don't get discouraged by how low the acceptance rate is for film production at all of those top schools, because I promise you, if you're just realistic and you make sure you have backup options and you put all of your work and your energy into your creative supplements, it will be so much more rewarding if you do get accepted into one of those amazing options. So yeah, anyways, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed my process and my tips for you. If you have any questions at all, just go ahead and comment them down below, and if I have any advice or answers for you, I will be sure to respond. But again, thank you so much. If you were just watching because you were interested, thanks for being here, and if you're watching this because you are applying to film, good luck. I'm sure you'll be amazing. And again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!